friends, my name is Kayla and today I'm doing my wrap up for the month of August, and in the month of August I read a total of 6 books. So before I get into my wrap up, I just wanted to shout out 2 channels that I've really been loving this month, and I just wanted to give them a little bit of extra love. So the first one is going to be Raul from Latin Lector, and I was buddy reading some books with him this past month actually, and definitely wanted to give him a shout out because I just think it's so fun to do buddy reads and just have those discussions and be able to open up your reading experience into a community and just be able to have those discussions, especially when you're reading the same book at the same time. That's awesome. Obviously, we can all have conversations as soon as we finish a book, no matter what time we finished it and how long ago we've read it. But there's something about reading the same book at the same time and just being able to freak out over those big moments together that it's just so fun, and I just feel so connected to this community when I do buddy reads, so I love those. And then I also have another person who I have talked about before on my channel, so if you've been around, you've definitely heard of her, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Sylvia over at Wish Fulfillment. She is such an amazing booktuber, and I love watching her videos. They're always so insightful, and I always feel like I learn so much when I listen to her videos. And also, you should follow her on Twitter because she's super awesome on there too, so just putting that out there. But into my wrap up, I read a total of 6 books this month, starting with As I Descended by Talley. This book actually came out on September 6th, but I was lucky enough to have been sent an ARC from my friend Caitlin over at Book Chats. She had an ARC on her and knew that I'd been wanting to read this book, so she sent it my way. I've already sent it on to Michelle over at Michelle's Life for her to review it, but oh my god, I freaking loved this book. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. This is a retelling of Macbeth. It is a YA book set in a boarding school, which is already enough for me, but this is a female retelling of Macbeth. So there is a lot of LGBT plus representation in here, specifically L and G, because we get some relationships there, and they're just so well represented, and the characters have so much going on, and they're just so well fleshed out characters that it was just glorious to read them. It has a very low level spooky factor, so I think it's going to be a really great book for people to pick up in the autumn season, especially in October if you don't get to it before then, which you probably should because it's amazing. But I loved this book. Like I said, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and oh my god, it was so good. Next, I read The Girl at Midnight by Melissa Gray, and I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. This was a really enjoyable urban fantasy tale that follows a main character who is kind of caught in between this age-old war between 2 different mythical beings. One of them is part human and dragon, one of them is part human and bird, and she is a human girl who is caught in the middle of this war. So maybe if you've read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, this sounds really familiar. And I do have to say there are so many similarities, but I feel like there's enough difference in the characters and the overall story once you get into the meat of the story that it's not at all like reading the same thing. I very much enjoyed this. I felt like the characters really made the story for me because, like I said, it does have some similarities to Daughter of Smoke and Bone, but the characters are just so well developed and written so well that you become very attached to what happens with them and you really want to see where their story leads. Really enjoyed this. Like I said, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend if you're looking for a really fun urban fantasy. And then I picked up the controversial book of August, or the end of July, however you want to look at it, and that was Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by John Tiffany, Jack Thorne, and J.K. Rowling. And I have to say, I liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. When I first picked this up, all the way up until the end of Act 1, I was certain I was going to give this a 1 out of 5 stars. I was not enjoying myself at all. I felt like everything that I'd loved about the series was just slowly falling apart and nothing seemed the same. I just felt very much like I had something taken from me with this beautiful story that I've been waiting years for. And then Act 2 came around, and things just really started rolling in a direction that made me so happy. And obviously, writers don't have to write to make readers happy, but that's really what saved this for me, is it went in a direction that really got me attached to the story, wanting to know more. I absolutely loved Scorpius' storyline. He was the shining character in this book, and really the one who saved it for me. You know, aside from Ron and Hermione, because Ron and Hermione forever. But Scorpius was such an amazing character, and just to see his storyline play out was everything for me. I did not like Albus Severus. He was one of the reasons in the beginning that I was really hating the story. But then Scorpius got to take the lead, and I was loving every second of it, and I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. Next was my buddy read that I did with Raoul over at Latin Lector, and that was The Crown of Embers by Ray Carson. This is the second book in the trilogy for The Girl of Fire and Thorns, and it was so amazing. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. Really, the only reason it did not get a 5 out of 5 stars is I have to say about the first 75% of this book was very slow going, a lot of world building, and Ray Carson does such a beautiful job at world building that it wasn't so much of a drag to read, but it definitely didn't fly by like the previous book did. However, that last 25% was gut-wrenching, and the ending, oh my god, the ending was amazing. I love to see where the characters were going throughout this book, and I can't wait to see where they end up in the final book, which I'm currently reading. This was so good. I didn't think I was going to absolutely love it until I got to that last stretch of the book, and then I was committed and I needed to know what happened, and I finished the rest of the book in one sitting because it was just that addictive towards the end. And like I said, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up In Real Life by Cory, Doctorow, and Jen Wang, and this was a recommendation from Trina over Between Chapters because I was just really wanting something light and fluffy and just fun to read, so she recommended this one, and it definitely was all of those things. It was such a fun book to follow, well, graphic novel to follow. I really loved the illustrations and just following the main character as she delved into this digital world and just seeing how she reflected herself in that world and how that world reflected back on her real life was just so cool to see. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars, and if you like graphic novels that have a very light feel to them and just a really nice contemporary storyline, I definitely recommend checking out In Real Life. And finally, I read City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, which I feel like I'm the last person on this bandwagon, and I am not sad I'm the last person on this bandwagon because I did not enjoy it at all. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. There were some elements that I did enjoy, actually. I thought that the storyline was pretty fun, a little bit predictable, but I think that has more to do with the fact that I've read quite a bit in that genre, that some of those plot lines are just kind of retired at this point, and this book did come out quite a while ago, so that's not really on the author. The thing that got me is how the characters just felt very shallow in their development, and I really hated the representation of women in this book series, especially how Clary was very much hating on any other girl who was confident in herself and her sexuality and didn't care to wear a bright lipstick or a short skirt. And that is something that absolutely drives me crazy in YA, is when there is a main female character who hates on other female characters to kind of boost herself up and make her feel more righteous and more worthy, when the reality is all women are worthy, and however you present yourself it's cool. So if you are into staying in on a Friday night and reading a book, that's awesome. If you want to go out and hang out with friends and go to a party or whatever, that's cool too. Don't hate each other for it. Just don't do that. And there were just a few things, just problematic things in this book as far as representation goes, and especially just the representation of women. That's the one that I just keep coming back to and cringing. But I've been told that it gets better, that the books get better. And I want to believe that because I've read the Infernal Devices series and I didn't see any of these problems. And I absolutely love the Magisterium series, which is co-written by Cassandra Clare. And the women in that are awesome. Like, the females in that series are amazing. So I'm just going to chalk it up to being an early publishing thing, and maybe it was just very popular during that time, because when I think back to books that were written in the mid to late 2000s, I think there really was kind of a trend that girls were just supposed to kind of act like that in YA. And I'm glad that we've mainly moved on from that, because it's not a healthy or accurate representation of young women. So yeah. 2 out of 5 stars. Don't hate me for it. Still continuing on with the series, and I still like other things that Cassandra Clare has written. Just not that. That has been it for my reading this month. I am so excited that I can kind of sink back into reading. It took me a little bit to get back into the reading game this month because last month at this point, I did get married. Yay! And I went on a honeymoon and everything was just so busy, but I'm so glad to have my dedicated reading time back. It is such a stress reliever, and it's so nice to have that back in my life. Anyway, that has been it for today's video. I will leave links in the down bar below for you guys to check everything out, and I will see you later. As always, thank you so much for watching. Stay weird.